Number 10, Deadpool? Okay, so not really Deadpool, more like DC's parody version of Marvel's parody character. You know who I'm talking about, it's Red Tool. Red Tool is a mercenary who only fights with power tools, and while he doesn't appear to have regenerative powers, can definitely still take a beating. In fact, he even got beat himself up by Harley Quinn after having his phone number tattooed on her butt and arranging to surprise her for a wedding. People have always thought Harley and Deadpool would make a great match, which is where Red Tool and his sudden romantic inclination come in. Of course, for Harley, it would take more convincing than a surprise wedding. She beat Red Tool to the point that he was knocked unconscious, proving that in DC's opinion, Harley could make quick work of Marvel's Deadpool besides. At least their parody of him. However, Harley did ultimately decide to team up with Red Tool after he came to and they were surrounded by the GCPD. Fortunately, his wedding present to Harley was the perfect ticket out of this predicament. I kind of love Red Tool and Harley Quinn together too. They're pretty cute. Also just like Red Tool in general with his little tool speech bubbles. Number 9, Manos. Manos is the wielder of the Infinity Rings. So yeah, you guessed it. He's a parody of Marvel's Thanos. But just because he's a parody doesn't mean he's not powerful. He still wields those super powerful rings and is super evil, leading to POWERGIRL to want to take him on when both she and Harley seek him out on their adventure together. While Manos is busy monologuing about just how epically he is going to destroy them both, Harley Quinn manages to steal the rings off his fingers without him noticing, and then accidentally kills him with the rings, to boot. She didn't know they were loaded, you know, so it's not really her fault there. Should this be possible? Probably not. Is it hilarious? You betcha. How did she even steal those rings without him noticing? That's what I want to know. Number 8, Lobo. In Injustice Gods Among Us, Harley Quinn is working some stuff out after Joker is gone and ends up stealing Lobo's flying motorcycle. This ends about as well as you could imagine, with Harley being chased all over by the crazy, overly violent parody of a tough 90s guy. Lobo having the power to regenerate and Harley Quinn being a normal human would mean you'd think that she'd never be able to beat him. But you'd be wrong. Armed with Lex Luthor's super strength and durability pills and her knowledge of psychology, Harley ends up convincing Black Canary and Green Arrow to team up with her and then makes quick work of her pursuer. And then of course, using her psychology, she's like, yeah, this isn't really about me, is it, Lobo? And Lobo's like, it's not, you're right. And before we move on to our next point, just a quick reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it and if you love Harley Quinn as much as I do. Number 7, Deathstroke. Of course, this one, like Lobo, was a bit of a team effort. In fact, even more of a team effort than Lobo's defeat, if I'm being honest. But still, Harley fought alongside the rest of the Suicide Squad to take down Deathstroke. And it worked, so I'm counting it. They ultimately were successful and Harley did help. So yeah. Deathstroke actually was also working with the squad but ended up betraying them. Together with Black Manta and a final shot from Deadshot, Harley took down Slade Wilson, which even with help is still pretty impressive considering how usually unstoppable and undefeatable Deathstroke is considered to be. Yeah, I feel like even if you get help in defeating Deathstroke, you're still doing pretty good. If you can do it. I couldn't do it with help. I don't know, maybe unless like Superman was helping me? Number 6, Ulysses Highwater. Ulysses was Hell's very own bounty hunter who pursued Harley after she managed to break out of her own personal circle of torment in the steamy underworld. I don't know why I called it a steamy underworld, because it's hell and it's not nice. I feel like steamy makes it sound a lot nicer than it actually is. She was back with her crew, the Quintets, and while Ulysses was a powerful demon who wielded guns and magic smoke and magic bullets, Harley found a way to outsmart him. I just love that this is more often than not Harley's tactic. In a typical psychologist play, she simply found a bounty that Highwater craved more and used it to manipulate him. He caught her, but she found a way to manipulate her tormentor, Petite, and then get back to Ulysses to offer him the bounty of his dreams so that she might escape his ire. Pretty brilliant, really. It didn't end up working out for Highwater, but in the end, it definitely worked out for Quinn.
Number 5, Yo-Yo. This version of Harley comes from the world of Flashpoint, which was the world created when Barry Allen went back in time to save his mom from being murdered by the Reverse Flash. The result was a timeline with an Earth on the brink of collapse. Atlantis and Themyscira at war, no Superman, Bruce died in that alley causing his dad to become Batman and his mom to become the Joker. So that's who this Harley is helping, Martha Wayne. And she's willing to go hard. When we meet her, she's kidnapping Harvey Dent's kids, and then edgy Thomas Wayne Batman drops her off a roof, and she's only saved because Cyborg catches her. This version is scary because, well, most of Flashpoint is, and the fact that it ends in the New 52, even scarier. Speaking of that, brings us to number 4. Number 4, the New 52. The New 52 would see a big shift in Harley, from costume to origin to tone her character was written in. Gone was the jester outfit, in was a corset, bustier, and hot pants, and hair like, well, mine. At first, she would be even more unhinged and dedicated to the Joker. She would throw herself into a vat of acid to show her dedication to him, her devotion. She would put his face on Deadshot after he cut it off. The Joker cut off his own face for a bit in New 52. Also, the abusive aspect of their relationship would be brought front and center, and nuance and discussion would leave. Harley would now become a power fantasy of how to leave an abusive relationship rather than a discussion about them, which would leave her with only one direction, leaving him. Obviously, which was nothing new, but also striking out on her own again, which was also not new. But now it was permanent, and she would be a villainess in her own right. This would be toned down over time, and she would veer more towards anti-hero territory, and be joined by on-again, off-again girlfriend Poison Ivy, who would end her best girl status and lose all of her motivation except being devoted to Harley. For many, this Harley would become the Harley, and her solo series would soar. This version of Harley is scary because you're never quite sure what she's gonna do next. Is she gonna try to revitalize a neighborhood or blow up a building and kill several children? You just never know. Number 3, Batman/Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So not gonna lie, this ended up higher than I expected. But I mean, it's not every day you're turned into a mutant hyena. This crossover comic ran from December 2015 to May of 2016. And it actually works well. The Turtles have some grit. Their original comics were pretty dark, so they're not out of place hanging with Batman in the Batcave. And Shredder is a threat no matter what universe he's in. For poor Harley, that means being spliced into a mutant hyena, which I guess was the choice, because since the animated series, Harley has had pet hyenas, which were an appropriate Joker-themed pet because their call sounds like they're laughing. Number 2, Suicide Squad, the DCEU. Yes, the DCEU version is an alternate version. If you're not from the Earth where the character originated from, you're an alternate. So in this case, Prime Harley would be from the DC animated series. This was Harley's first big screen debut, but not live action because that was Birds of Prey, the series. The look the character had in this film would become iconic, despite the fact that the director of the Birds of Prey film now claims it was problematic and forced the first director of Suicide Squad, David Ayer, to apologize. I mean, there is one shot I can think of that was a lot of lot. You know the one. She bends over to get the bag out of the window of the store. I know where else I've seen shots like that, and so do you. Despite this, her look has become one of the most cosplayed and one of the most desired costumes out there. This Harley is scarily popular. She is the only thing to survive that Suicide Squad essentially, and launched a whole new craze of Harley mania, and it's not going away anytime soon. Number 1, Marian Drews. This version of Harley hails from the Batman White Knight universe, a comic series that acknowledged that Harley pre-New 52 and post are so different that they could conceivably be two different women. And here they are. Marian Drews is the second Harley, and Joker never even noticed the change. This Harley is drawn to mayhem and madness, and loves Joker because he is crazy, and because of the license that gives her to do what she wants. When he seems to be going sane and proposes to her, she rejects him, and instead becomes a new Joker until he comes back to his senses. This Harley is scary because she is a version who was using the Joker as an excuse to let out her own impulses that were always there and just looking for a catalyst. She chose the Harley life. The Harley life didn't choose her.
Number 10, Batman and Harley Quinn. While technically the version of Harley Quinn from the animated universe could be considered her original and therefore her main version, this depiction of her at least hails from a DCEU film instead of where she originally appeared, in the Batman animated series. In the animated film Batman and Harley Quinn teams up with Batman and Nightwing, who are hesitant to turn to her for assistance, but really have no other choice when it comes to finding out where Poison Ivy is, as she and the Floronic Man threaten all of humanity. Their evil plot involves turning people into plants. Talk about creating a greener Earth. Harley agrees to join up with the heroes in exchange for Batman's help in getting her reinstated and rehired as a psychologist. And technically this film, I don't even know if we know it's part of the general animated universe, so it actually could be separate from that continuity as well. I don't think it's ever clarified, but it is an animated film, which is why some people consider it part of that continuity and some people consider it outside of the continuity. Number 9. Harley Quinn, the animated series. In the Harley Quinn animated series, Harley isn't a saint per se, but she does help to save Gotham when Joker has the city in his grasp, and she also ultimately decides against using parademons to conquer Earth, despite the fact that she is currently crushing the forces of New Gotham and could probably have stood a chance to not just kill Jim Gordon, but also take over the whole planet with her parademon army at the behest of Darkseid, if she was feeling like it. And even though she had been considered worthy of joining Darkseid and conquering Earth in his name. Granted, this was also because Poison Ivy stopped her, but hey, you know, maybe in this reality it's these two women together that bring out the good in one another. Maybe that's also why they make a great romantic couple. Of course, Harley does still classify herself as a villain in this reality and aims to be an even bigger, badder one than her ex the Joker initially, but I inevitably think Harley Quinn still skews more reluctant hero or anti-hero in this universe, even if she might not label herself as such. Even if she's kind of in denial about it, I still see this Harley as a more heroic than villainous version overall. A little bit of chaotic hero, basically. Chaotic good, that's Harley Quinn. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more Harley Quinn alternate lists, or you just want more heroic alternate versions of villains lists, which I'm sure we could do a few more of those, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Black Label Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. In the DC Black Label limited series Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, Harley is out for revenge after her and the gang of Harleys' Coney Island home, the Dreamin' Seaman, is burned to the ground when Big Tony forgets to keep up payments to their criminal mortgage lenders. Harley is headed back into downtown to try and deliver some payback, but also has to dodge the Birds of Prey and Officer Renee Montoya, who are working together to prevent her return for her own safety. And the Joker, who would very much like to endanger his ex, Harley Quinn's safety. In the process, Harley Quinn helps the GCPD to apprehend the Joker, manages to steal all his and other criminal stolen loot that is in his care, and hands it over to the police, which I'd say are some pretty heroic actions, even though they weren't really the main focus of Harley's visit per se. While this is a story that could fit in with Harley's main continuity narrative, and which I think some people have attributed to that narrative, at least during a certain time in her life, maybe a little few years ago maybe, I usually assume most of Black Label comics are kind of out of continuity and therefore kind of like Elseworld tales that exist in their own pocket universes. So for me at least, this is an alternate tale. Number 7. Old Lady Harley. Old Lady Harley is a version who exists in a DC alternate future created to parody Marvel's Old Man Logan universe. Here, Harley Quinn as an old lady ends up leaving NYC, but is dragged back to it years later by Red Tool. Tool brings her back to her old pal Tony, who has had her brought back because, well, they need her help. Brainiac 5 attacked the Earth a while ago, creating this kind of apocalyptic wasteland that we're in. However, the gang of Harleys were able to fend him off. Shortly afterward, though, they turned on one another, vying for ownership over NYC and dividing up into the gangs of Harleys, who divided up rulership of New York between them. It has finally come down to this final battle, where the winner takes all, and to avoid things getting messy, Harley has been called in to put a stop to this fight, save the Harleys from each other, and win the benevolent rulership of NYC, because obviously Harley would be the best person to rule it. Harley succeeds, of course, and uploads a copy of her consciousness to Cy's old cyborg head, since he himself is dead and not really using it anymore. Using that tech, she's able to guide the Harleys and protect New York, even when she isn't there, freeing her up physically to get the hell out of Dodge and continue on her own adventures. Number 6. DCEU. In the DC Extended Universe, their cinematic universe, we are introduced to a version of Harley Quinn played by Margot Robbie. While Harley definitely has a bad side here, she is also a villain with redeeming qualities. She is smart, capable, strong, and generally she's pretty lucky. The problem mainly with Harley in this universe, as we learn in David Ayer's Suicide Squad, is her attachment to the Joker. And we see that when she finds herself free of him, she ends up on a more reluctant path that leans more towards anti-hero than just straight up villain. Sure, Harley is still at times selfish, but it's clear that she cares about the general well-being of those who, like her, struggle to find a place to belong. In Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, she ends up uniting the powerful heroic group of women known as the Birds of Prey, and turning the DCEU version of thief Cassandra Cain into her own young protege after saving her life, or helping to save her life life at least. She fights to defeat the baddies and help save the day. And then she goes on to prove just how noble she can be once again in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Number 5. Green Lantern. There was some interference on this fight, which as you may have guessed by now usually happens with Harley, but regardless, Harley was definitely in the process of winning when the interference really helped her to crush her enemy, who in this case was Green Lantern Hal Jordan. That's right, Harley won in a cosmic arm wrestling match against Hal. In Harley's Little Black Book in issue number 2, the two characters square off when Harley, after being outbid for a genuine Green Lantern ring online, instead gets her hands on something better, a black and red lantern ring. How fitting. It is a combined ring formed from both colors of lanterns. In the end, red and black lantern Harley defeats Hal only to have her ring taken. Hal knocked out and is of course kind of forced to don his Green Lantern ring in order to help save the day. Another fun team up for the books, or the Little Black Book, I suppose I should say. Number 4. Batman. Harley Quinn has beaten Batman on more than one occasion, but for me one of her most iconic victory moments comes from the Batman animated series, when Harley successfully traps Batman for the Joker and is planning to basically waste him. Of course, although Harley almost successfully ends Bat's life, he manages to prey on her insecurities regarding her relationship with the Joker. He convinces Harley that the Joker will be upset with her if she just wastes him without contacting him or telling him anything about it. So she calls him up, and then when he arrives, it's revealed that Batman was actually right. In provoking a fight between the two villains, Batman is able to escape, but in this scenario, if Joker hadn't been involved, Harley would have likely been completely successful in executing her Puddin's plan. This victory not only proves Harley's might next to Joker, but also is a heartbreaking one, as it illustrates how harmful her relationship with the Joker is, and how its toxicity also succeeds in often holding her brilliance and her individualism hostage. Number 3. Wonder Woman. Harley's Little Black Book really is a treat of a mini team-up series. If you're a Harley fan and you haven't read this one yet, or at least dipped your toe in, I highly recommend it. Back in issue number 1 of the series, Harley manages to defeat Wonder Woman by catching her unawares and successfully kidnapping her. Of course, Harley actually is aiming to do this for Wonder Woman's own good, and is in fact a big fan of hers as we find out. So it isn't a malicious defeat at all. Still though, using sleeping gas, Harley manages to incapacitate Wonder Woman and swaps clothes with her in an attempt to impersonate her. In the end, this results in a glorious team up of the two badass ladies fighting side by side. Number 2. Superman. We don't really know how, and she didn't do it alone, but in the Black Label limited series, Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey in issue number 1, we open up on Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn being served by Superman. Together they seem to have made him their prisoner by threatening the life of Jimmy Olsen, and Superman is waiting on them in return for his whereabouts so that he can run off and save Jimmy. Of course, it all turns out that this is part of a dream, but it's a fun sequence and could actually be based on real events in this Black Label reality. Black Label comics typically happen outside of continuity, just FYI. Whether or not this was real though, Harley also took on Supes in a boxing match and won in Harley's Little Black Book in the second to last issue in issue 5. Number 1. The Trinity. If you thought the Man of Steel was too much for Harley Quinn to take on, obviously you would be wrong. And you'd actually be super wrong about that, as Harley has not only taken on Superman multiple times, but also in one fight managed to take on Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman all in one go. The holy trinity of DC supers, if you will. This all went down in Heroes in Crisis, when the superhero trio was trying to track Harley down as they believed she was behind the mass murder that went down at the Sanctuary. Harley made quick work of the team, using Batman's contingency plans even against his allies, and the team's love and affection for one another to her advantage.
Number 10. Harley Quinn and her gang of Harleys. These alternate versions of Harleys have actually been approved by the main gal herself. The gang of Harleys were recruited by Harley herself after Poison Ivy suggested that Harley was overworking and could use some help. Over 80 people applied to join Harley's gang, and so to help her eliminate some of the competition, Harley turns off the lights and tells them to fight one another. This allows her to reduce the number of applicants considerably. The gang has changed slightly over the years, but recently reappeared in DC Black Label's Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, looking fine as ever. I also just love that they have one male Harley Quinn, and I personally think Harley does really well when she creates gangs, like with the Quintets or the current Harley Quinn animated series. There is is strength in numbers for her. Number 9. Dark Prince Charming. This version of Harley Quinn comes to us from Batman the Dark Prince Charming series. This alternate is kind of a brat, but being a brat is considered hot by some, no? I mostly included this Harley here though for her look, which I just think is so different, but is also super cute. She's still got that red and black corset vibe, but with a dark tutu. The look for both her and the Joker here is sort of Victorian inspired, with Harley also in a black garter with some red and black thigh highs attached, and some white button-up boots with heels. She wears a white ruffle around her neck, and her hair is done up in two almost Elizabethan style combs. Number 8. Bombshell. This version of Harley is turned to madness not so much by the Joker himself, but by a dream version of him. In the DC Bombshells universe, Harleen and Mr. J became a sort of Bonnie and Clyde style couple with a Robin Hood attitude. But Harleen left Mr. J when she felt he was becoming more dark and dangerous. Instead, she turned to psychology, training and practicing until she became known for her skills as a psychiatrist. She ended up working at ARKHAM Ward in London, but a dream her patient had of someone who resembled Mr. J set Harleen off, causing her to have a psychotic break and become insane. She ends up stealing the female dance partners of some English soldiers at a Christmas party, meets Officer Hal Jordan, seduces him, and steals his plane, and as such is often depicted in a Harleen bra-like top and shorts with thigh-high socks and, of course, a bomber jacket. A pretty great look, I must say. Number 7. POWERGIRL. Although this isn't exactly an alternate version of Harley from another universe, it is a dramatic alternate look that I thought was worthy of making this cut. This version of Harley is from the 2016 Harley Quinn series. For a while, Harley finds herself obsessing over POWERGIRL, who actually becomes a friend to Harley, surprisingly. Harley Quinn has always been such a great character because she's so versatile. She can be good, she can be bad, she can wear pretty much anything she wants and make it work. She's just an interesting character who's kind of trying to find out who she really is and wants to be through redesigning her look and exploring different sides of herself, which I think is something we can all relate to at some point. Well, for a while she wanted to be like POWERGIRL, which led her to dressing in a POWERGIRL inspired outfit of her Harley Quinn suit, boob window and all. Number 6. Thrill Killer. In the miniseries Thrill Killer, which takes place on the alternate universe of Earth 37, we meet HAYLEY FITZPATRICK, who is this universe's Harley Quinn. HAYLEY is a high school girl who becomes the partner in crime to this alternate universe's Joker. In this universe, the Joker is still a criminal, but is a female, who is known by the name Bianca Steeplechase. This version of the Joker and Harley do end up being not just partners in crime, but in romance also. And the two, while still being villains, are much kinder to one another, and both seem to genuinely care for each other and reciprocate each other's love for one another. It's like a nicer version of their relationship, to be honest.
Number 5. HAYLEY FITZPATRICK. In Thrill Killer, Harley is instead HAYLEY FITZPATRICK, a young teenage schoolgirl who is the paramour and partner in crime of the Joker. Still in this rendition. Though in this universe, her version of the Joker, Bianca Steeplechase, dies. A lot of people die actually in this alternate story, but not HAYLEY. She is one of the few who survives. She ends up being put in therapy following the death of the Joker, as Bruce Wayne hopes she can be saved and redeemed. In the end, HAYLEY is reported missing and has stopped attending her therapy sessions. Bruce notes that he should go looking for her first thing in the morning, as her family is worried sick. His commentary comes at us over top the images of HAYLEY's parents and brother all shot dead, before cutting to an exterior of their family home up in flames, where we can see HAYLEY dressed once again as Harley Quinn. She is holding a gun and dashing away from the burning home with a smile on her face, implying that in this universe, Harley as a teenage girl kills her own family in cold blood. Woo. Number 4. Neo Joker. In the series Batman White Knight, there are two Harleys. One is the real Harleen Quinzel, and one is an imposter, a fake, if you will. The fake version of Harley apparently took over for the real Harley Quinn years ago, when the Joker killed Jason Todd. That's when the real Harleen left and MARIAN stepped in. The Joker was so preoccupied with his schemes that he never even noticed. When he found himself cured of his psychotic nature and returned to try and make amends to Harley, MARIAN
Quinn was the first version he ran into. Marian herself was of course also crazy and hated that Jack Napier, formerly known as the Joker, had apologized and promised to make amends for how he had mistreated Harley in the past. This version of Harley, Drew's version, would go on to become the Neo Joker, while Jack himself attempted to become a hero. Number 3. White Knight Harley Quinn. The other Harley Quinn from this alternate universe has a much brighter story. She is reunited with the love of her life, and now both of them are able to finally be together in a healthier setting, with him being cured. She agreed to help Jack Napier, and the two are married, both promising one another to be better to each other this time around. If you never thought you'd ship these two together, the Joker and Harley Quinn, this is the story that will likely surprise you in how much you actually love their relationship as it is written here. However, this fairy tale ending does not last for Harley. Jack Napier eventually gives into the darkness and becomes the Joker once more. Harley is left alone, pregnant with his twins, which she eventually gives birth to and attempts to raise on her own. In a new series, we'll see a continuation of her story, and this time around it's likely to be more dark. In Batman, White Knight presents Harley Quinn. A new serial killer is out on the rise who seems to be connected to the Joker. The GTO and FBI turn to Harley for help with the case. To protect her children and her city, Harley agrees to help, but in order to do so, will be forced to face her dark past, while juggling motherhood and facing her romantic feelings for Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, who is currently behind bars. Will this alternate be able to look madness in the face once more and survive? We'll have to wait till October to find out. I'm really excited about the series. Hopefully it ends up happening. Please. Please let it happen. Number 2. AZZARELLO'S Harley Quinn. This version of Harley I think is one of the darkest because she also happens to be one of the most quiet. We never get to read her words or hear her voice in the Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo 2008 graphic novel The Joker. Here Harley Quinn is painted as the Joker's solace, his girlfriend and partner in crime. She is mainly seen having intimate moments with the Joker and ruthlessly killing people alongside him. She takes joy in the trail of chaos, bloodshed, and violence that she and the Joker leave behind her though. The closest we get to seeing her speak is seeing her maniacal laughter. Number 1. HARLEQUIN. In the DC animated film Justice League Gods and Monsters, Harley Quinn is known simply as HARLEQUIN and is a serial killer who murders people, chops them up, and uses their parts to make her own version of the perfect family. Batman eventually tracks her down and she fights him with a chainsaw. In the end, however, she becomes injured by the chainsaw herself and attempts to surrender. However, this version of Batman himself is a monster. This version of Batman is the vampire and former scientist Kirk Langstrom. Instead of allowing Harley Quinn to surrender, he sinks his fangs into her neck, drinking her blood.
Number 10. Echo. We need to go to the TV series Gotham for this version of Harley, who is technically not Harley, just like how neither Jerome or Jeremiah on that show are technically supposed to be the Joker, but rather they're supposed to be proto-Jokers. To which I say, nice try, Jan. Echo was introduced as Jeremiah Valeska's assistant, who would stick by his side even after he went insane. She would help him do anything, including coming up with a plan to destroy Gotham City and starting a church to him, a cult. That was during the No Man's Land arc. Her costume has the Harley colors and cues and sometimes even designs. She even has the painted face. She has that devotion, but she's not Harley. Nope. Look, if we call her Echo, we don't have to pay for anything. This version of Harley is scary because she doesn't seem to have much of a will of her own to question anything. She's loyal to a fault and willing to die and kill for Jeremiah. They say it's hard to find good help these days, but when it's this loyal, it can be deadly. She actually only appeared in a handful of episodes too. Number 9. Batman Damned. Now when most people talk about Batman Damned, they talk about the controversy of the naked Batman panel, where you see full frontal Batman. That is now a collector's edition because they don't print it like that anymore. Also, we probably couldn't show it because, well, YouTube. But there is also a pretty scary version of Harley in that comic, one that first appears masquerading as the Joker, and has been seemingly even more unhinged by his apparent demise. So she and Batman get into a scuffle on a rooftop, where she manages to get the upper hand, and she then proceeds to attempt to sexually assault him. But that gets no play, it's the bat peen that's the problem. Priorities. Things do not end well for this Harley, as under the influence of the Enchantress, Batman ends up strangling her. So yeah, Batman damned. A lot happened. Also a Joker face on a Jesus statue. Lots of choices if you feel like taking the comic to task. Number 8, Harleen. Now this is low because it's a retelling of her origin. It happens under the DC Black label, but it's put together so artfully that it feels new. It takes the character back to her roots while granting her an agency. A true agency she hasn't had in years. The ability to be shown as well-rounded, and the descent into Harley is tragic but relatable. This Harley is scary because she's so easy to understand. Some people who read the story have gone, you know what? For the first time, I got it. I got why you would want to go with the Joker, why you would want to be Harley. The whole story allows the reader to make their own decision about what happened and who or what caused it. And that in and of itself is cause to rejoice. A comic that treats you like you're smart enough to form your own opinion, whatever it is. Also, the art is beautiful. Okay, I'll calm down. Number 7, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey TV show. While Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn, later renamed to Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey because no matter how you felt about it, let's be real, that's what it was. Also, those were some Elseworlds Birds of Prey in that movie. Anyway, that was not the first time the character was associated with a version of the Birds of Prey. This adaptation on the TV series is loose too, but hey, at least it has Barbara in it. It comes from the early 2000s. In this universe, Harley is still a psychiatrist, but she has ties to the Joker, or had, and no one knows it. This is a very different Harley, not a manic pixie bad girl, but a manipulative, cold, calculating character. Some say that this version is boring, and compared to some of the others, she's definitely less vibrant. But she's also more cunning and had the potential to do some lasting damage. And because of her position, get away with it. It's always nice when people play with the psychologist part of Harley. Number 6, HAYLEY FITZPATRICK. This Harley is from Earth 37, or the Earth where Thrill Killer 62 takes place. She's involved with Bianca Steeplechase, that universe's Joker. The two end up getting engaged and wreaking a lot of havoc and mayhem together. Also, Harley's a schoolgirl here, which many people ignore because the Joker here is female, but I don't. This Harley is scary because after Bianca is killed by Batgirl, she doesn't give up on this life of crime. No, she doubles down on it, and is shown murdering her own family so that she can get revenge and become a super criminal in her own right. Just yikes. Thrill Killer has a mixed reception in the realm of Elseworld stories.
Number 5, Batman. At least this one feels like a sort of fair fight because both Batman and Harley Quinn are humans without any superpowers. But when it comes to skill sets and resources, Batman is definitely working with a lot more than Harley Quinn is. Still, somehow there have been multiple occasions where Harley has bested Batman in both the animated universe and even in the comics, and much to the chagrin usually of the Joker, proving that while Joker may have been around for longer, Harley might somehow be an even greater criminal genius in some weird twist of fate. Of course, Batman also might try to convince you that he's only lost any fight to Harley because he wanted to, and that it was all part of his master plan. But then, what else is new? Isn't that usually Batman's go-to excuse in the face of defeat? I don't know how many comics I've read where Batman's like, oh, I meant to lose. It's all part of my master plan. Okay, Bruce. Of course, if you still feel like this is too, racy or is too dangerous, let us know and we can always try to do something different. Number 4, Adolf. I mean, this one is just super surprising because Harley would need a time machine or something to even get back in time to the leader of the German forces during World War II, yeah? Or you might just need Superman's balls. No, not those balls. These balls. Harley managed to swipe these Kryptonian power orbs while she was in Superman's Fortress of Solitude. The green ones allow you to time travel, which sends Harley back in time to, well, an alternate timeline that basically looks a lot like DC's Bombshells, in this case. In fact, it pretty much is DC's Bombshells. Harley goes back there and surprisingly not only runs into and defeats Adolf, but manages to defeat a bunch of armed soldiers besides. It's all pretty impressive, actually. She also gets to kiss herself. Her bombshell self. Her bombshell self is gross. Number 3, Wonder Woman. Sometimes you have to defeat the ones you love for their own good and protection. That's what happened in this fight featuring Harley Quinn and Wonder Woman. Well, it was less a fight and more of a rescue / kidnapped attempt. But still, Harley came out on top here and managed to defeat Wonder Woman. In order, of course, to rescue her. So, it was a nice defeat. Harley Quinn is actually a huge superhero fan herself, if you didn't know, especially of Wonder Woman and of POWERGIRL. In an attempt to protect Diana from those who were hunting her down, Harley disguised herself as a flower delivery person. And when Diana turned her back to go grab a pen to sign for the flowers, she knocked her out with a gas bomb. So yeah, it wasn't like a crazy epic fight, but still, it's pretty impressive that Harley was able to kind of pull one over on Wonder Woman there. Still beat her, gotta say. Number 2, Death. Not like the character death, but the actual concept itself. In the 2000 Harley Quinn solo series, we see Harley die and go to hell. But you already knew that from my point about Hell's best bounty hunter, Ulysses Highwater. To continue on from that point, Harley doesn't only defeat Highwater in the end by piecing together what he really wants and why and getting it for him, but in doing so, she also manages to escape hell and death itself. You see, Harley wants to help Highwater reconnect with his son as he's hunting down the man who stole him away. His lover, Nathan Drum. His son's lover, not his lover, who he blames for actually corrupting his son. Harley finds out, unsurprisingly, that Highwater's son and Drum are of course not in hell, but somewhere likely much better. The other place perhaps being heaven. She offers Highwater their whereabouts, but makes him promise not to punish either of them for finding love with one another. However, just as Highwater seems to agree and assures Harley that he actually loves his son very much, and so he wouldn't do that anyways, Etrigan shows up and kicks Harley out of hell. You see, she's just too much of a nuisance to remain there. After all, people aren't supposed to find things like love and forgiveness during their stay in hell. So yeah, he rhymes her the heck out of there and then squeezes Loot Harley. He's like, you're too annoying. The Ballad of Harley Quinn. Number 1, the Trinity. Harley Quinn has not only managed to defeat all of those superheroes individually, but even managed to defeat them all together, what we refer to as the DC Holy Trinity of superheroes. In Heroes in Crisis, she manages to make quick work of them, using them against one another. She gets close enough to Diana, hugging her and confessing that she was not the one to blame for the tragedy at Sanctuary, so that she can get her hands on her lasso of truth. Haha. She then uses that to tie up Batman, threatening to break his neck with the lasso while using it to question him. She asks him if he has anything on him that, could be used against Superman. And paranoid old Batman, he definitely does. He has a bit of kryptonite in his belt, he tells her. She takes that and uses it to defeat Superman, taking off and escaping before anyone is able to do anything. Honestly, I'm actually really surprised that Wonder Woman didn't really do more here, because I feel like Diana definitely had the opportunity. But I guess, once you're holding Batman hostage, it's like, not much you can do, because they're like, we don't want Batman to die. So, fair.
Number 10, Harley Hyena. In the Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover animated film based on the comic crossover miniseries, Harley found herself transformed into a hyena when the Joker exposed the prisoners of Arkham to a mutagen that turned them all into all sorts of animals. Harley herself at least became an animal she is usually depicted as being fond of, which is why this point is lower on the list. At least she's still alive as well. I mean, things could be a lot worse. But still, I don't think Harley herself signed up for the hyena life, and seeing all of the inmates as animals, some of which are quite deadly, is pretty twisted and wild. Number 9, Constellation Harley. This version of Harley comes to us from the Emperor Joker storyline, where Joker tricks Mr. Mxyzptlk into giving him 99.9% of his power instead of the 1% he had originally intended to give him. Now, for those of you who don't condone the way I just pronounced Mr. Mixie's name, by the way, I actually got it from Mr. Mixie himself in the original Superman cartoon, so you're gonna have to take that up with him. I'm trying to do my best to stay true to his name. During Joker's time wielding this massive amount of power as Emperor Joker, he does a whole bunch of wild and crazy things. One such thing being turning Harley into a constellation. Yep. Joker apparently meant this as, I guess, some kind of sweet gesture, but honestly it sounds like some form of mythological torture that a god would use to punish a mortal. I have never been a constellation myself before, but I'm assuming it's not as fun as it appears. Number 8, Dark Prince Charming. This version of Harley Quinn from the Dark Prince Charming series is all kinds of messed up. In this reality, Harley is still with the Joker and is still obsessed with him, despite the fact that he consistently seems to disappoint her and is of course still very obsessed with Batman. In this reality, Batman has a daughter whom Joker kidnaps as part of a plot to both kill Batman and get Harley a big diamond necklace for her birthday. Harley herself at least tries to save Batman's daughter, but she she also seems super concerned that this child is trying to steal her man, which is just... it's all kinds of icky, really. To that level of ick, Harley also seems flattered when Joker puts 16 candles on her birthday cake because to him, she'll always be sweet 16. Yikes. If a man said that to me, I'd be like, what? I'd like to be out of this, thank you. Number 7. Injustice Comics. Well, we've talked about Harley Quinn in the Injustice games, which are set in the same universe. There is something that comes up specifically in the Injustice comics that I didn't really get to talk about last time that I felt we needed to touch on just because it is actually so dark and weighty. In the comics, we learn that Harley Quinn and the Joker in this reality had a child together. Now, that is pretty dark in and of itself, imagining these two supervillains as parents. But what's more awful is that Harley Quinn didn't want the Joker to know about the baby. In a sense, she just didn't want to distract or bother him when it came to his main pursuit of his criminal career. So she left for about a year to give birth to this baby. And the Joker apparently never noticed that she was gone. Wow. That's dark. Number 6. Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo is the alternate version of Harley Quinn from the Flashpoint timeline. This version of Harley just goes to show that she doesn't need a typical Joker to continue to be dark. Like her thrill killer counterpart, Yo-Yo works with a female alternate of the Joker. In this reality, her alternate Joker is Martha Wayne, driven criminally insane following the loss of her son Bruce. Yo-Yo here is shown ruthlessly fighting Batman and is the one responsible for helping Martha Wayne's Joker to kidnap Judge Dent's children. So straight away we know that Yo-Yo is a twisted and loyal villainous sidekick who means business and isn't above causing harm to children, or anyone else for that matter. Number 5. Future State. One of the more recent alternate versions of Harley Quinn comes from the Future State reality, which might in ways end up partly our DC main continuity future, but will also likely diverge in enough ways that it'll be considered different. So now this is kind of an alternate reality. Even though before we were promised this would be the main reality. Lies! Lies! I mean, we already know that it's going to be different in the world of Batman, especially because of how the Bat-centric Fear State event went down. In regards to Harley Quinn from Future State, here we see Harley acting more as a hero, who is forced to team up with the Magistrate and Jonathan Crane, formerly the Scarecrow, to help them capture some of Gotham's most deadly and brutal criminals and serial killers. And I gotta say, Harley Quinn's pretty good at it actually. She crushes it. Number 4. Criminal Sanity. In Criminal Sanity, Dr. Harleen Quinzel starts out as a psychiatrist who is forever changed when the Joker murdered her roommate. Stealing her medical books in the process, he used the knowledge within to become, as he saw it, an artistic serial killer, tormenting his victims with what he had learned. Harleen herself became focused and obsessed on catching the Joker. She ends up joining up with the GCPD, but inevitably leaves when she feels that they are incapable of catching and stopping the Joker permanently, choosing to strike out on her own instead in order to do so. Although, that'll probably be in a part 2 to this story. Kinda ends open-ended, hoping we get more of this. While she definitely does have a darker side in this comic and in this continuity, she ultimately is working to catch the killer known as the Joker instead of joining him. So I think we can definitely consider her to be a hero, even though she's kind of obsessive. Number 3. Prime Earth. Since the Batman animated series version of Harley Quinn is technically the original, Prime Earth Harley Quinn, oddly enough, kinda counts as an alternate. This version of Harley is currently an ally of the Bat family and operates more as a vigilante in Gotham than a criminal. Currently, this is probably the most heroic version we have seen of Harley Quinn in the main continuity of the comics. Harley operates almost as a Batman sidekick following the events of Joker War, and even during that event, if it wasn't for Harley, Batman actually might not be alive today. Harley was the one to help Bats after he was infected with Punchline's special brew of Joker venom, which made him quite sick and caused him to severely hallucinate, struggling to discern reality from deranged fantasy. If anything, Gotham would at least be in a lot of trouble if Harley hadn't helped him. I feel like Batman might still be tripping out. Number 2. White Knight. In the White Knight reality, Harley Quinn has become a straight up hero. Here we see Harley Quinn become the sidekick and one true love of Jack Napier, who suffers from a sort of dissociative identity disorder where he also becomes and lives with the persona known as the Joker. Eventually, Harley leaves Jack, but when he gets the help that he needs and is able to escape his Joker side, the two actually come back together. Batman in essence becomes the antagonist of this story, having gone too far when it comes to his mission to put a stop to crime. And it is Jack and Harley who are forced to do something to put a stop to Batman Batman's crusade. In the end, Jack dies, succumbing once more to the darkness of his Joker persona. Batman ends up in prison, and in White Knight Presents Harley Quinn, we follow Harley, who ends up teaming up with the GCPD to catch a criminal, becoming part consulting psychological criminal profiler and part straight up vigilante, doing it all while also working to protect her 2 babies, her pet hyenas that is, and her 2 twin human babies, her children with Jack, conceived before his demise. Number 1. Injustice. While initially Harley started out as kind of one of the baddest of bads in this universe, she does inevitably end up becoming one of the best when it comes to heroes. So good in fact she even ends up joining up with the Justice League. Harley Quinn in Injustice by the end is 100% a hero and ends up allied with Batman when it comes to the split between Bruce and Clark Kent, aka Superman. Superman of course goes on to become a fascist tyrant and pretty much the villain of this narrative, who rules with an iron fist, where Batman fights for the freedom of heroes and for the freedom of the world, believing that even if people choose to be criminals, they should ultimately get to make that choice themselves. Harley too agrees, believing that people should be given the choice to choose, and like in her case, believes they should also be given the opportunity to possibly change. Because, you know, Harley used to be a criminal, and now she's more of a hero. Number 10. Harley Sin. Harley Sin was one of the applicants to join Harley's gang of Harleys. Her name is Constance Brand. While she didn't end up becoming one of Harley's Harleys, she did still remain in Harley Quinn comics, and for a time was one of her villains. She's less of an exact alternate and more of an obsessed fan with a grudge. Eventually she and Harley made peace, but recently she has reappeared in the Black Label comic Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, where she was seen taking over Harley Quinn's place as the Joker's wannabe paramour. Here she was tasked with proving herself to the Joker by gruesomely killing a bunch of civilians who Joker felt had wronged him, including his mailman and an ice cream man who didn't happen to have Joker's favorite flavor in stock. It seems that she might once again be plotting to take down Harley Quinn, but this time at Joker's side. Number 9. Bizarro Harley. This version of Harley was a miserable version. She was created using Harley's genetic material and LexCorp's Bizarro creating device, or machine. Bizarro had originally wanted a Bizarro version of Lois Lane to be his perfect bride, but instead was willing to settle for his own version of Harley Quinn. Unfortunately, this version, being the opposite of Quinn, ended up being a huge stick in the mud and the exact opposite of fun. Unlike Harley, Bizarro Harley was a very serious and responsible person. Her speak was also a little weird for a Bizarro character, as well as not everything she said was fully reversed. In the end, Harley defeated her Bizarro self by putting her out of her misery and telling Bizarro Harley she was not lovable, trying to get her to prove she was by saying she was having a good time. This resulted in Bizarro Harley exploding because, you know, it's hard for Bizarros to say things like good and nice. But hey, at least she went out with a bang. Number 8. Injustice. While in the end Injustice ends up being a story of redemption for Harley Quinn as we see her become a full-fledged hero, we have to remember where this whole thing starts and why it is that Harley is working towards redemption in the first place. At the beginning of the story, Harley is still Mr. J's partner in crime, meaning she is also responsible for Lois Lane's brutal death at the beginning of this story, and Jimmy's, as well as all of the chaos that ensues afterwards. For all we know, Harley could have even helped Joker create this notorious plot. Also, poor Jimmy. I feel like because of all the crazy stuff that follows in Injustice, everyone forgets about his brutal death. Shot in the head, right through his camera. R.I.P. Injustice Jimmy Olsen. I'm sorry that you died. I always feel bad for him. We all forget about it. Not me, not today. Number 7. Steven Sijek's Harleen. Sijek's Black Label Limited series Harleen is one of the darkest alternates we've seen of Harley yet, as it allows us to dive deep into Harley's psychology in a way we don't usually get to in comics. In this version of Harley Quinn's origin story, a traumatic encounter with the Joker scars the young psychiatrist for life, forever changing her. She later is given funding for a project which could help in the early detection of sociopathic behavior, granting her access to Arkham Asylum and Black Penitentiary, allowing her to study criminals who were held there. She runs into the Joker and decides to face her fears of him by becoming his therapist. He proved to be the perfect patient, causing Dr. Quinzel to become obsessed and extremely protective of the Joker. Over time, also finding she was falling in love with him, losing her sanity as she became more and more infatuated with her patient. Number 6. Arkham Games. In the Arkham video games, Harley became a psychiatrist while training under Dr. Hugo Strange, which is pretty creepy to think about. Unlike most depictions of her as a psychiatrist, she did not this time around seem to have the best of intentions when it came to her patients, but more just a twisted and messed up fascination with the criminal mind. Here it was her ineptitude as a psychiatrist that allowed her to be manipulated by the Joker, not realizing that she was out of her league in treating him, and that he was using her. Dr. Quinzel quickly became obsessed with the Joker, falling madly in love with him, and willing to do anything that he asked of her, becoming his faithful servant who he often mistreated, and seeing Batman as the real villain of the story. Number 5. White Knight. This version of Harley leaves the Joker when she realizes the only person he loves is Batman. After the Joker is cured from his insanity, however, she returns to him. The Joker, aka Jack Napier in this version, has just apologized to his Harley Quinn and proposed to her after the real Harley Quinn shows up, revealing the one who was with him at the time was actually an imposter and a fake who took over after the real Harley Quinn disappeared. These two ditch the imposter and set out trying to actually mend their past and learn how to be together and love one another in a healthy way. This version just goes to show how great and supportive a partner Harley can be. And I don't know about you, but I think her kindness and understanding that this alternate shows only elevates her hotness factor. Although I also think that this is also within main Harley as well. This time, her and the Joker stop Batman for the right reasons, becoming the heroes of this story. Number 4. Injustice Harley. After the death of the Joker at Superman's hands in the Injustice universe, Harley finds herself teaming up with the good guys to avenge his death. Whether we are talking video games or comics here, this version of Harley looks good either way. And she also kinda is good. Her blonde hair is up in her famous red and blue tipped pigtails, and she wears goggles on her head. Kind of a similar look to her DC Bombshell version, actually. This version of Harley works on the side of Batman and the Insurgency, and later on works surprisingly closely with Green Arrow as well. She prefers to go by her real name, Harleen. In the video games, she is also voiced by Tara Strong, whose Harley voice is known for being a fan favorite. Who's your favorite voice for Harley Quinn? Who's your favorite voice actor to play her? Let us know in the comments. Number 3. Harleen. This version of Harley is one of the most stunning just because of how beautifully she is illustrated. This version of Harley comes to us from the DC Black Label book Harleen, which explores the origins of Harley Quinn, her budding romance with the Joker, and her descent into madness. It has got to be one of the best books for helping you to understand just how racy and dangerous the romance was between these two, and how powerful those initial sparks were. The art by Steven Sedgwick also just lends really well to the ultra steamy, secretive feel of this risque version of the psychiatrist known as Harleen Quinzel. Number 2. Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie has played Harley Quinn in both the film Suicide Squad and Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, and both times she has killed it. She is likely one of the hottest versions of Harley because her version of Harley is real life. Or as close as we'll get to real life Harley anyways. Granted, it's not just Robbie alone, but an entire crew of professionals who help bring hers and DC's vision of the character to life. And stunt doubles, who help to make Harley look just as badass as ever. Although Margot Robbie proudly tries to do as many stunts as possible and as many as the studios will let her do. And it's not just the fact that this version of Harley is live action that adds to her appeal, but that Robbie makes Harley's sometimes ridiculous or dramatic struggles feel so grounded and somehow relatable. Number 1. Batman Animated Series. We can't talk about the hotness that is Harley Quinn without paying tribute to the version of her that originally got everyone hooked. Now, can we? This version of Harley was voiced by Arlene Sorkin. Sorkin is really the one who made Harley's voice as iconic as it is today. Now it feels weird if Harley is without her high-pitched tone or New York accent. Harley in the animated series was a very loyal companion of the Joker's, and many fans still prefer her full suited jester costume than any other look she has had over the years, proving that no matter how much or how little clothing Harley wears, she makes almost any outfit look good, with her winning wit and silly yet dark sense of humor. I think what many fans really loved about this version of Harley was how smart and brilliant yet underappreciated she was. Also, her loyalty. No matter how many times Joker put her down, she stayed very loyal to her put-in, as problematic as their relationship was. or how many times he tried to kill her.
Number 10, Captain Carrot. These two fought it out in the two-parter Convergence Harley Quinn. After all, it would take a melding of multiversal realities in order for these two to even be able to fight one another, as Captain Carrot hails from the alternate Earth of Earth 26. While this fight might not seem like anything to celebrate, it should be noted that Captain Carrot is actually pretty powerful. He possesses one of the most epic powers, I think, of all time, that of cartoon physics. I don't know about you, but being able to defy the law of physics that govern matter and molecules in our world sounds pretty powerful to me. While the physical kind of fight came to a stalemate, in the end it would appear as though Harley won without really meaning to when she offered Captain Carrot snacks from her friend Poison Ivy's garden. In other words, those carrots are probably all kinds of toxic. Although Harley also joined Captain Carrot in a quick snack, the poison would not actually affect her, as thanks to Ivy she has total immunity. Captain Carrot, however, looked like he wasn't doing great. He was like, ugh, poisonous garden. Number 9, Damian Wayne. Harley Quinn made quick work of Damian Wayne, aka Robin, in the Harley Quinn animated series. Here Harley was looking to make a name for herself as a supervillain and leader of her own criminal gang, striking out on her own. She wanted to take Joker's spot as Batman's top nemesis, and even managed to steal Batman's Batmobile in hopes of baiting him out. Unfortunately for Harley, it wasn't Bats who answered the call, but instead Bats Jr., aka Damian Wayne. Harley was very disappointed and refused to even really fight Damian, despite him claiming that he was a more than worthy nemesis for her, being trained by birth by the League of Assassins. Harley defeated him far too easily, hanging him by his cape on a meat hook in the warehouse that they were in. Although Damian of course later embellished the story and insisted that Harley and he were official nemeses. Also, I love Damian Wayne in the Harley Quinn animated series. I think it's my favorite incarnation of Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne fans, please don't hate me. I mean that with the utmost respect. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, more Harley lists, yes, let's have it happen, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Also comment below. Number 5, Death Metal Harley. Death Metal Harley has an obviously more metal look than her main continuity counterpart, and also gives me some kind of Mad Max vibes as well, which I'm loving. Maybe that's just because she's from the Arkham Wastelands, I don't know. This version of Harley rides around on a motorbike and has a short buzz cut, though still sports her famous red and black hair that we've seen many times before in the comics. She also wears a variation of her Jester suit, but this one is more tactical looking, complete with metal knee pads and of course some badass spikes on the wrists and on the hems of her pants. She also has tons of pouches, which I love. You know me, big into 90s comics, I love my pouches. And she can sometimes be seen wearing a protective clear plastic or glass cylindrical helmet. We recently got a closer look at the Death Metal Harley and learned more about the origins of her massive pet hyena in the Dark Knight's Death Metal guidebook. That was a fun dark alternate, that one. Not so sad or icky. Number 4, Criminal Sanity. Criminal Sanity is a series that comes to us from the Black Label line, and it is overall pretty dark. The alternate version of the Joker in this is also pretty twisted. Harley in this version is a doctor turned investigator after she comes home one evening to her roommate Edie dead in the bathtub. There are also definitely some little similarities to Ivy in terms of Edie's look when she is found in the bathtub dead, which I thought was just an interesting design choice to help readers draw parallels between Harley and Edie's relationship and the close friendship and romance that Harley and Ivy share in the main continuity. Joker is the one believed behind the crime due to his signature trademark being left behind, but in this reality he also boasts of another sort of trademark. As opposed to it being all smiles, his victims tend to be surgically manipulated in some way, causing them to resemble art. It's like Harley is stuck in a criminal mystery horror movie here, akin to the film Seven. Number 3, Echo. In the live action show Gotham, we get to see into the origin of many characters who are sort of the rogues and heroes of Gotham City, and also sort of not. These are definitely alternates, and in many cases their origins offer different takes on the characters. In the case of the Joker we have Jeremiah, and in the case of Harley we instead have Echo. Echo was Jeremiah's loyal assistant even before he lost his mind, but once Jeremiah became a dark and twisted criminal, Echo was so devoted to him that she also chose to follow him faithfully down this path as well. There is nothing that Echo wouldn't do for her own version of Mr. J, and no one who would be safe from her if Jeremiah wished they come to harm, including Echo herself. This is what makes her one of the most deadly and dark alternates of Harley around. Number 2. Batman the Animated Series. It's kind of funny to me that we even consider this version of Harley Quinn as an alternate now, as really this was the original version of her character, as she first appeared in the Batman Animated Series in 1992 in the episode Joker's Favor. But now her comic version has become known as the main, as, you know, comics are usually where we get a lot of inspiration for film and television, not the other way around. Except, I guess, in rare instances like with Harley Quinn. What's so dark about Harley in the animated series? Well, her attachment to the Joker and her mistreatment. This version of Harley is pretty dark as well because it showcases a time in Harley's life where her puddin was everything to her. No matter how many times he hurt or literally tried to kill her, she always came back. And to me, that is both sad and the most dark. Number 1. The Joker. Sort of. In Batman Damned, the Joker is believed dead, which Batman is in the process of investigating, not knowing whether or not he is the one who killed him. During this time, he runs into Harley Quinn, who appears to be doing her best Joker impersonation. This version of Harley is the darkest on the list because of how damaged and twisted she has become here, and she also assaults Batman, which is pretty messed up. Harley genuinely seems to have been so attached to the Joker that she no longer cares if she lives or dies, or who or how she hurts others now that he is gone, expressing as much to Batman before attempting to take him on herself in her own really twisted way. She also is covered in tons of stitches and scars, implying that she has gone through some kind of torture, likely at the hands of the Joker himself.